welcome to this class. In the last class we looked at what is meant by key factors for success. So, we looked at the key success factors, how it can help increase profits, how it can help to gain market share. We took different examples, whether it is raw material procurement, the industries where this can help increase profits, the industries where it can help in gaining market share. So, we went through different key success factors like raw material procurement, raw material processing, production fabrication, assembly, design, distribution, marketing, service. Now, let us continue further. Now, in order to do analysis with respect to strengths or weaknesses, that is the internal analysis, we make use of certain checklists. So, we will discuss one of the checklists now. This is a checklist which is developed by two people, Bates and Eldridge. They give 3 dimensions. One is management, second is operations, third is finance. Now, they ask us to give the basis of comparison on these 3 dimensions. And give that ranking. What is the existing ranking with respect to the industry concerned, whether it can be used as a strength or weakness by the company. The second approach which is given in the same table is a grid approach, which is by this gentleman Ansoff. So, what he suggests is the dimensions taken are the 7S matrix. He takes into account the 4 functional areas of marketing, finance, HR and production. And using these 4 functional areas, he again suggests a ranking. All this is called the strengths and weakness profile for a company. So, you can use the Bates and Eldridge approach, or you can use the grid approach. So, now look at corporate audit. What are we trying to do essentially? We are asking questions about the company both within the organization and outside the organization. Then we are making observations about the company, then examining the records of the company, then we are matching the strengths and weaknesses for competitive advantage. So, here the concept of synergy could be useful. To put it simply, whether we can get more than an additive relationship. So, normally your 1 plus 1 should result in 2, whether in the organization concerned this 1 plus 1 can result in more than 2. This is what we are looking at. So, this can be the simplest way of looking at synergy. I give below a diagram. This diagram gives you the Porter's model of industry competition. So, this is a very important model it tells you what are the forces which are driving industry competition, and how an industry should be coping with this type of industry competition. If you look at it broadly, this is represented by 5 blocks. Let us look at each of these blocks. The first block looks at the degree of rivalry. What do we mean by the degree of rivalry? Degree of rivalry stands, you can look at this degree of rivalry under the broad headings of number of competitors, industry growth, asset intensity, product differentiation and exit barrier. What do we mean by this? We have tried to discuss this in the earlier classes. Number of competitors. Suppose you are the only player in the market, then you are a monopoly player. So, there is absolutely no competition for you. Suppose there are number of players in the market, then you are really looking at a situation where whether you are moving towards perfect competition, what is going to happen, whether the attributes of one cannot be distinguished from the attributes of the other player, that is with respect to the product. Suppose there are few players, you are looking at an oligopolistic market like the typical airline industry in India. Then when we say industry growth, we are looking at the entire industry. What is the percentage by which it is growing per annum? How is the company growing? Suppose you are growing at the same rate as the industry growth rate, no cause for alarm. Suppose you are growing at a lower rate compared to the industry growth rate, then you must be concerned. Suppose you are going at a higher rate, then there is reason for the industry to feel happy. The asset intensity. What do we mean by the asset intensity? A company will have number of assets, whether it can be with respect to the buildings, plant and machinery. Now, for software, the number of softwares developed, the types of protection which they have obtained for each of these software, all these things are going to come in. Then the product differentiation. What is product differentiation? How you are differentiating your product from the competitor's product. This gives you the edge. To the extent that you can sustain that edge, that is sustainable competitive edge in the marketplace. To that extent, it is a sustainable competitive edge. Then what is this exit barrier? Some of the markets which you can enter, say it is a perfect competition, very close to a perfect competition. There is no particular bar on a player from entering or exiting that type of market. In other words, this exit is open. Contrast this with the monopoly market. You cannot exit that market, that is the industry concerned cannot exit that market, that it is actually blocked. So, you can have a blocked entry, you can have a restricted blocked exit, you can have a restricted exit, or you can have an open exit. Okay. This is the way the market works. Now, look at the second block. The second block is captioned potential entrants. That potential entrants again has got certain dimensions mentioned. What are the dimensions? The dimensions are the economies of scale, the absolute cost advantage, then the brand identity, then access to distribution, then switching costs, then government policy. What do you mean by this, all this? Economies of scale. Generally, what is meant by economies of scale? You expect the cost per unit to come down when the number of units produced are increased. That is, when your production level goes up, you expect the cost per unit to come down. That is the economies of scale operating. We looked in the earlier classes with respect to economies of scope also, where you can get economies of scale by combining certain production lines. Okay. So, without that type of combinations, you can still look at economies of scale with respect to production. What is that? Suppose the number of units are increased, you expect the cost to come down. What do we mean by that? We expect learning curves to become operational, that is where the labor or the labor force will become more and more competitive with respect to cost when they are producing more and more number of units of the same product. Now, when you are able to reduce the cost of per unit of the product, where is the company heading towards? The company is heading towards absolute cost advantage. This is one of the generic strategies suggested by Porter. So, for a company, whether it can have that cost leadership. Then the third with respect to a potential entrant is brand identity. Suppose you are a well known player in the market and you want to enter a particular market. You are a well known player in other markets, you want to enter this new market. Because of your identity in well known identity in the other brands, you still gain or you still have an advantage in the new market as well. Example could be that of Reliance or Tata's trying to explore different market spaces, cashing in on the brand identity. What is this access to distribution? Some of these big companies, some of these big industries have a very good distribution network, and in a competitive market this access to distribution plays a vital role. What is the switching cost? Suppose there are number of potential entrants in the marketplace, that is you have more than one entrant in the marketplace. Now, suppose a company wants to switch between these entrants. For the company concerned, there is a switching cost that is involved. Then the last dimension that is considered is the government policy, that is everyone should be concerned about that. And with respect to any sector, what is the type of government policy which the sector wants to which the government wants to follow. All this block itself, when you look at all these dimensions, when they feed to block number 1, what is it that you are looking at? You are looking at, suppose you are already a player in the market. When you are a player in the market, you should be worried about the threat of new entrants into your market arena. That is, the life cycle of the company itself in that particular market. You should be really concerned, or you should be really looking at or watchful over all these aspects. So, suppose a new player comes, what is going to happen? Whether it causes our company, what is the type of dent it can cause in our company's markets. Similarly, look at this third block. Suppose you are in a market and that market has products which can be substituted for your product. That is a present product which you are putting into the marketplace. The products of that particular company can be used as a substitute. That is another player. So, what are the dimensions? You are looking at the dimensions of functional similarity, what is the price or the performance trend, and what is the product identity. As long as it is coming from a reasonably good player with good brand identity at a competitive price, able to perform the same functions as your product, then you have a real competition on hand, which means the threat of substitute products or services is going to stare at you, that is at the company's product line. So, this is what all competition is about. So, you call it what do you call breakneck competition or cutthroat competition, whatever you want to call it. So, this is many times, having lived in Bangalore for such a long time, when I drive my car now, I many times wonder whether I am driving the car or walking on the road, because there are so many cars on the road, almost all the roads. The cars are actually crawling. So, similarly in a marketplace, suppose you have few players in the marketplace, then you have a certain distinct advantage. Now, suppose you have many players in the marketplace, then the threat of the substitute products always looms large. Now, add to that the grey market. So, what is that grey market? That is cheap products from different countries or different players. So, one of our neighboring countries is an expert in producing these cheap products, that can also be a great threat to the companies. So, then we come into the realm of government protection, all those types of things to protect the quality products from being exploited by these cheap products and all that. Now, look at block 4, that is the suppliers. What are the dimensions on which this block 4 is designed by Porter? One is supplier concentration, second is number of buyers, third is switching costs, substitute raw materials, then threat of forward integrations. What do you mean by supplier concentration? Too many. Suppose you are highly dependent on one particular supplier, then what is going to happen? Then suppose something were to happen to that particular supplier, then your entire production line may suffer, that is the company's production line may suffer. Now, suppose there are too many buyers from the same supplier, then what is going to happen? You are also one buyer for him, there are other buyers as well. So, he has a certain edge in supplying this. Then what is going to happen? Suppose you do not have a substitute raw material, that is you are dependent only totally on him. All this will increase the bargaining power of the suppliers. So, this is what is characterized by this small heading which is coming there, that is the increasing bargaining power of the supplier. Suppose depends on the number of suppliers in the market and how much your company is dependent on those suppliers, that will tell whether these suppliers have bargaining power or whether you have got alternatives. The next one, that is the fifth block, is with respect to buyers. We are looking at similar dimensions as suppliers. The only this thing which we are seeing is, instead of threat of forward integration, we are looking at threat of backward integration. What is forward integration? You are looking at the distribution line. What is backward integration? You are looking at your raw material line, that is a supply line. So, what is the effect of this block? It gives bargaining power to customers. Suppose you are too much dependent on a particular customer. When can that happen? This can happen in an industrial marketing situation where each order becomes vital for a company. So, each customer becomes an important customer for the company. When each customer becomes important for the company, then he has a certain bargaining power. So, that becomes quite crucial for the company's success, that is your company's success or growth or whatever. So, you have these 5 blocks which is characterizing industry competition. It is called the Porter's model of industry competition. So, the first block looks at the degree of rivalry, the second block at the potential entrants, then the third block at the substitutes, the fourth block at the suppliers, and the fifth block at the buyers. Now, let us look at the area of strengths and weaknesses for a company, which can again be listed down according to functions. We are still in our corporate audit, internal corporate audit, internal corporate analysis, kindly note that. So, we are looking at the different functional areas. The functions could be with respect to general management, finance, R&D, operations, then marketing. What could be the areas of strengths and weaknesses? It can be facilities and equipment, personnel skills, organizational capabilities, management capabilities. Then what could be the examples for this? I have looked at one particular functional area. Look at marketing, the facilities and equipment. What are the types of examples that you can look with respect to marketing, that is the facilities and equipment? You can look at warehousing, you can look at retail outlets, you can look at sales offices, you can look at training facilities for sales staff. All these are the facilities or the equipments which you may require for this particular function. What are the types of personnel skills that you may require for marketing? It can be door to door selling, it can be retail selling, or your advertising skills, or the after sales services. See, nothing can be more crucial than your after sales service. This is highly, it is a very important function. This is becoming highly relevant in the present day automotive industry, whether it is a two-wheeler industry or a four-wheeler industry. The two-wheeler market is if you look at any city in India, you have the two-wheeler markets really getting saturated many times. What do you mean by that? You have too many different options available for the buyer. That is, you cannot particularly say that this two-wheeler, especially if it is a motorbike or then this particular two-wheeler only will be preferred. because the consumer has got options. So, it need not always be that he picks a TVS, he may be willing to look at other options. Now, when a particular two-wheeler of this nature is picked up in a city like let us say Bangalore, this after sales service becomes so crucial. So, why I am mentioning this? Many of these two-wheelers, the present day two-wheelers, exhort the customer to drive at a particular speed. They say do not drive below this particular speed, maintain this speed of about 25 kilometers or 30 kilometers, do not go below that. Normally the tendency among the youth is to accelerate. Now, suppose for some reason you are not able to accelerate on a particular stretch of the road, that is you come down in speed and you find that the traffic is getting cleared, the tendency is to accelerate. Now, when this tendency to accelerate comes, many of these two-wheelers have suffered from what is called the air lock. That is, all of a sudden the two-wheeler stops. It is not only happening to the bikes, it is also happening to the scooters manufactured by many of the reputed manufacturing companies. This problem of air locking, a brand new vehicle all of a sudden getting switched off. Why is it happening? So, this air locking is a very serious problem which has to be attended to not just by a salesperson, but by the company service person only. So, this is the type of skills which you may require, that is a marketing person may not be able to completely handle this. A company person's assistance is also required, like in the case of the particular example. Suppose you ask the marketing the dealer who marketed the vehicle for you, he may not be able to handle it with his service staff. He may require the assistance of the company service staff only to solve such types of problems. So, these are things which are happening. So, this is an area of strength or weakness, could be an area of strength or weakness depending on how the company is able to perform on this. Now, the organizational capabilities, it can be the direct sales, then the after sales, then the service network, then the customer loyalty. What do we mean by management capabilities? It can be industrial marketing, it can be household marketing, it can be large customer base. So, customer loyalty need not be again explained. So, suppose some of the products we take from reputed companies, we not only try to see whether a repeat purchase, if it is required, we would like to make it from the same company. Suppose a particular electronic company, we are very happy with the product of that electronic company. It is coming out with a new product which is again useful to you. Then you are very likely to go in for that product only. So, mention might be made of this Prestige, a very simple consumer products which are being used by most of the houses. So, you have this Prestige cookers. Now, what is a Prestige company trying to do now? It has come up with different product lines. So, one of the product lines which has caught in the market space is the mixies. So, you have the Prestige cookers. On the performance of the cookers of this particular company, you tend to think that this company's mixies or the mixers also will be good, and generally it has proven to be so. So, what is that? This is the customer loyalty that you can expect when your product is found to be good, which the your marketing department, that is a company's marketing department, should be able to exploit. Now, suppose in a particular area, your management capability is reflected by your ability to build a large customer base. Suppose it is a consumer product. Suppose you are able to build a large customer base, then what is going to happen? Then even if other players were to come into the market and this customer loyalty is also there, then to that extent creating a dent into your market share or market space becomes that much more difficult. So, this is the way you look at strengths and weaknesses in one more manner. So, you start looking at the functions, you start looking at the types of strengths and weaknesses associated with respect to each functions. What I have given you in this particular chart is with respect to one function, that is marketing. What could be these facilities and equipment, what could be these personal skills, what is this organizational capabilities, what is this management capabilities. So, depending on where the company stands, you can say yes, this is strength for me, this is weakness. That is, you can yourself say this is an S, this is a W for my company. Okay. After all doing all that, what do? You do what is called an organizational analysis. What is meant by this organizational analysis? Many frameworks are suggested for doing these types of analysis. One of the framework which I am giving you is called a VRIO framework, that is VRIO framework. It has got 4 dimensions. One is value, second is rarity, third is immutability, fourth is organization. What is value? Your company is there and it is putting out products into the marketplace, or it has got different product lines in the marketplace. Now, what is it that you should evaluate the value in the marketplace? That is, how do you evaluate the value in the marketplace? You evaluate the value in the marketplace by finding out, by putting this particular product, whether do I get a competitive advantage. So, if I am able to get competitive advantage by putting this product, new product into the marketplace, then it is creating value. Similarly, this competitive advantage, is it rare? What do we mean by this is rare? That is, whether the other competitors, that is the other players also are able to really get this type of value from the marketplace, then you really do not have a competitive advantage. Suppose it is rare, then it is giving value to the company. Now, you introduce a product into the marketplace, then suppose it is possible for other players to imitate your product very fast, but they find imitating is costly, not really worth the effort taken. So, what is the cost for others to imitate? That is the imitability. Why are we looking at that? We are looking at this because how long you can sustain the competitive advantage in the marketplace. Once your product comes into the marketplace, it is out there in the open, it is there for everyone to see, and many of your competitors or many of the prospective entrants into the market will be willing to do a what do you call a re-engineering or whatever you want to call that, cycle engineering or whatever you want to term that. They will do all that to find out whether your product can be substituted with their product in the marketplace. So, as long as they are not able to do that, then you have a sustainable competitive advantage. Now, the next question is your organization, that is a company, organized to exploit this resource? Suppose you are you are having good innovators, suppose a company is not exploiting that innovation, then it is no good. Having innovators itself is not a very big strength, that you must be able to cash in on the strength of these innovators in the marketplace, that is being innovative in the marketplace. So, this is all this Ryo framework tries to tell you, and I give here a diagram which tells you how to use your resources to gain competitive advantage, that is using resources to gain competitive advantage. So, what is the method of going about? You take a firm, identify the firms and resources and classify it in terms of strengths and weaknesses. Then what is the next step? Combine the firm's strength to specific capabilities, corporate capabilities. These are often called core competencies. Suppose you are very good in machine tool industry, let us say HMT, very good in machine tool manufacturing, that is its core competency. Using this core competency, the company should move to distinctive competencies in the marketplace, that is the sustaining edge for the company in the marketplace. Now, when you are able to get that sustaining edge in the marketplace, the company gets what is called the sustainable competitive advantage. When it gets that sustainable competitive advantage, its profit potential and the capabilities will increase. That is, look at the profit potential and capabilities for sustainable competitive advantage. That is the third step. So, identify and classify the firm's resources in terms of strengths and weaknesses, then combine the firm's strengths to specific capabilities, corporate capabilities, that is core competencies should move to distinctive competencies. Then look at what could be the routes for obtaining profits and achieving capabilities in the selected markets, that is what could be the different strategic routes that you can adopt. Then select the best strategy. So, using the top 3, the above 3, you have to develop options. When you develop these options, you select, that is you should have alternatives, not just stick to one. Then select the best strategy, and one more thing which you have to do is find out where is the gap that with respect to resources in executing the strategy. That will be in fact considered a weakness. Suppose you do not have the resources, but the strategy is there, you are not able to execute the strategy for want of resources. So, that will be considered a weakness, and you should be able to invest in upgrading this weakness or overcoming this weakness. So, this is the way a company can look at using resources to gain competitive advantage in a marketplace. Now, I give you one more slide which tells you how to determine the sustainability of an advantage. That is, what are the dimensions which tell you whether an advantage is going to be sustainable. One of the dimensions is durability. What is durability? Rate at which a firm's resources and capabilities become obsolete. What do you mean by this? Suppose you are a highly technology intensive firm, let us say, that is your firm is a highly technology intensive firm, and this technology keeps on changing. When this technology keeps on changing, you should be able to upgrade to this technological changes, and if you are not capable of doing so, then it will, your durability with respect to the product line becomes a question mark in a marketplace. Then the second one dimension is immutability. What is immutability? Rate at which a firm's resources and capabilities can be duplicated by others. This is what I mentioned. Once you are out in the marketplace, it is open for other players to look at what you are offering to the market, and that market always lends itself to imitation by other players. So, a core competency can be imitated to the extent it is transparent, transferable and replicable. This is a very important statement. Suppose you looked at your firm and said, this is my core competency, and you said, this is the strength on which I would like to sustain my competitive advantage. That can be done provided it is not easily possible for the competitors to duplicate your core competency. So, this is characterized, this imitation is characterized by these three dimensions: transparency, transferability and replicability. What is transparency? Speed with which other firms can understand the relationship of resources and capabilities supporting a successful firm strategy. This example I have given you already, but again repeating: Gillette, the sensor or the Match 3. There are so many players in this market, but they have found it is not so easily transparent to imitate this Match 3 technology and come out with a duplicate product or another product which can be having the same capabilities as Match 3. What is transferability? Transferability is the ability of the competitor to gather resources and capabilities to support a competitive challenge. Suppose how strong is the competitor? Suppose you are a very strong player in the marketplace, then suppose a new player comes into the marketplace, then you find that the marketplace is he is going to be a threat to you in a marketplace. Then what can you do, or what you might do? You might find out to what extent he can be a threat in a marketplace. You can see if you are a big market player, whether that threat can be obviated or whether the entry itself, it can be nipped in the bud. So, this happens very commonly in the marketplace, not that this was not happening earlier. So, I can give you a story from the Mahabharata itself. If you really see, After all the Mahabharat wars, the war was over, the Pandavas got control of their kingdom. After ruling the kingdom for several years, then they gave the kingdom to one of their next generation people, that is Parikshit. And Parikshit was ruling the kingdom. When he was ruling the kingdom, he got a curse from one of the sages. What is the curse? This Parikshit, on a hunting expedition, put a dead snake on a sage who was in deep meditation around his neck, because he did not answer his query. So, the sage's son came later on to find that his father's, this dead snake is put around his father's neck. So, what did he do? He said he cursed the person who put the snake, saying that let this person die of the same snake bite within 7 days. So, sages had lot of powers, they do have lot of powers. So, because of their different capabilities, so what, then the father opened the eyes and then saw what is the extent of damage that the son has done, then sent the son to the king's court, told him that asking him to tell him that you have given him this curse, then if he is capable, let him guard himself against the curse. So, the son obeyed the father's command, went to the court of the king and told Parikshit that I have cursed you because you have done this. So, on my father's command, I am coming back to your court to tell you, if you can protect yourself, do protect. So, what happens? So, the snake which was given the task of eliminating the king is one by name Takshaka. He is a highly poisonous, it is a highly poisonous snake. It can kill the person almost instantaneously, the bite. So, what happens? So, the king makes a broadcast throughout his kingdom that anyone who is able to protect the king in case he is bitten by a serpent, he is welcome to come to the court and he will be suitably honored. So, what really happens is one Brahmin boy starts walking towards the court of the king, and this Takshaka looks at this whole events unfolding, and when he looks at this Brahmin boy walking towards the court of the king, asks him why he is doing so. The boy replies, and Takshaka asks, will you be able to really cure the king if he is bitten? He says, yes. Then he says, I am Takshaka, I am entrusted with the task of killing the king. Now, I want to find out about your powers. I will bite this tree opposite. This tree will be reduced to ashes immediately. This boy replied very calmly, yes, you can do so, I will bring it back to life. And true to what he said, he brought it back to life. Then it was cause for worry for Takshaka. So, what did he do? He asked this boy, Why are you going towards the court of the king? To get the reward. What is the reward you are going to get? So many gold coins. I will give you double the number of gold coins. The king is destined to die. Do not stop this death. Now, in the present day context, market also operates in the same manner. Suppose you find a new player entering into the market, can be a threat to a bigger player. It is very possible that the bigger player will approach this new player and ask him, why does he want to enter the market? He says to make this type of profits in the market, and he can always strike a deal saying that do not enter this market, we will pay this much. These are the common things which keep on happening. What is replicability? Ability of a competitor to use duplicated resources and capabilities to imitate the firm's success. So, this also happens very commonly in the marketplace, very common in with respect to some of the competitors. They use substandard goods, substandard materials, but imitate your product in such a manner that when the two products are kept side by side, hard to distinguish which is your product and which is the other's product. So, look alike type of thing, that is replicability. So, this is where companies have suffered. So, sometimes using almost the similar names also, except for some spelling changes, things like that. So, all these are some of the characteristics of the grey market as well. So, a core competency can be imitated to the extent it is transparent, transferable and replicable. Suppose it is not possible, that is it is not transparent. Suppose it is not transferable, suppose it is not replicable, then it is not easily possible to imitate your core competency, that is the company's core competency. To that extent, the advantage is sustained in the marketplace. This is what it comes to. So, we will stop here, we will continue in the next class. Thank you.